against those who are actually intruding or trespassing against the people's rights. Isn't that interesting? Yeah.
Well, here's a question from George Witchert III. So the all caps in names etc is the straw man or corporate person.
Exactly. That's what, and it's not you. Keep this in mind. It is not you. It's presented as you. The trick is for them to have you via your miseducation that you got from the General Education Board set up by John D. Rockefeller and Frederick T. Gates in 1902 after they murdered Winona in Philadelphia area, etc., for dumbing you down, dumbing your children, stealing your estates, and establishing animal husbandry training under the guise of human education. That's a fact. The all caps is a Sister QV trust set up that's regulated from Seed and Company relative to your rightful estate, your rightful heirship, your rightful inheritance, etc., under what is known as quote unquote wardship tenures. And thus such persons are designated as quote unquote black people, colored people, state wards, etc., and are relegated to what you call a non-heritable status. And of course, the mistreatment that we've been getting has been falsely classified or misclassified as racism and prejudice. And then they have overseers who are promoted in your communities under the Civil Rights Act of the 14th Amendment to promote civil rights BS to pacify us as we get raped. And they get their kickbacks from the corporate state operatives of the Roman Curia members, known as a 501c3 designation established by Lyndon Baines Johnson to control their quote-unquote Negroite leader guys who always claiming spirituality when they're really agents or Roman soldiers for unum sanctum operations. That's a fact. And so the all capital letters designate a Sister QV trust. That's a fact. And you're not the beneficiary. That's why they set up, I think it was, cross-reference me, please. I think it was in 1862, they set up a double stock trust, but they disallowed anyone else to do it. And that's how they've been doing what? Claiming to be trustee and beneficiary. And those politicians, and with the help of all the preachers, have been robbing the people blind for generations. That's why they don't want you talking about nationality. That's why they don't want you to be talking about nationalizing. That's why they don't want you to be talking about making them write your name in all small case letters, because they can't use it then. That's why they're upset. And that's why you see them always attacking anyone that starts going in the direction of countering diminutio maxima. Yeah, right.
Right. This is a question for later date, but I'm going to post it up anyway.
I don't understand what you're saying.
No, it said from Milton McGowan, House of Reawakening Minds may ask if at a later date you can share your contemplation of the first Lloyd's Act of London and its updates to the present in regards to its impact on working people in G7 nations. So I'm not a scholar, but my thought wanders on things to do with power and the circumstances it's delegated.
Yes, and this is why you'll see members of agents for the members of the Roman Curia who have been operating in North America, calling themselves reverends and clergy guys, etc., and promoting the civil rights, marching you around, making fools of yourself on your own land type thing. And it is because they'll say, oh, we're putting our trust in the Lord. They're actually and have been worshiping Constantine under the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed, collecting tithes under the name of taxes, and benefiting from their 501c3 designation kickback. And of course, when they talk about the Lord or asking the Lords, they're actually talking about the Lords of London. Yes, you're on the path of truth, because it is the Lords of London that's been running this game. And additionally, for many of you others, when you see "In God We Trust" on the Federal Reserve note, is government ordinance departments. It has nothing to do with Creator.
Here's another question.
And that's the Lords of London that's running it. And the members of the Roman Curia, of the Circle Church and Chancery, who are running the judicial systems at North America. All of those venues are not constitutional. Not one of them. Not one.
This next question: how true is it that the regular church is here in the Americas, actually paying tithes to that Roman church that you're talking about?
Because they are extensions of the Roman Curia. That's known as the bishopric. And it's the same thing for some of you who have been aware of, I think it's, I apologize for not remembering the exact date, but I'm guesstimating it was around 20 years ago in Philadelphia area, where multiple churches in the so-called quote unquote black community, there was misappropriations of finances, and there was a suit that occurred. And I think it was also posted in the Jet magazine, which was a common little small magazine that was usually in our communities. And to their chagrin, of course, they were not successful. But what was known and found out, that all of these so-called quote unquote black churches actually belong to the Baptist Council of Europeans in the South. They own all of them, including the mortgages on all of them. And so when these so-called people thought they was collecting all these tithes for all these generations, for all their families in their so-called black communities, and thought they owned their churches, and through blindness and ignorance, etc., rudely discovering that they owned nothing. Of course, the tithing was going to the Lords of London, just like the income tax goes to the Lords of London from the IRS. That's a fact.
J. Kane says, my understanding is that maritime law is no longer applicable in the Aquarian age, that the law of you reap what you sow is in effect. Is this true?
It is true. That's why you see the institutions collapsing. And this is also in the nature of earlier in the conversation when I said, while a lot of these activities have been taking place in order to counter the operations of the ens legis and the capitist operations, and why a lot of Moors are writing in small case, while that is in fact an absolute counter, we're at a period of time now that all the instrumentalities created by the hybrid Europeans are dead as they create them anyway. This is where we've been telling people for the last 7 years that there will be a feedback loop. That's what I was talking about, which means they're eating their own tail. So the bonds are being absorbed by the Federal Reserve. That's why when the last operator for the corporation dropped the mic at a roasting party a couple years ago, his name was Barack H. Obama. He dropped the mic because it was over then, and that's the truth. And so what they're doing, they're buying back their own bonds. And this is, again, why you're going into high inflation right now. That's part of the effect. That's the truth. See how many napkins to wipe my face?
Right there.
Excuse me.
Okay, here's another question. Apollo Powell says, our problem is that we have to talk about something so simple that anyone could read in a dictionary. Where is the controversy? I guess he's questioning
the controversy is you see a lot of people who have been falsely, because I think the word conscious or conscious Moors have been thrown around too loosely. You'll see a lot of people who are designated as so-called conscious Moors, all of a sudden, you'll see them in stark opposition to the principles behind the Constitution all of a sudden. That's controversial. And you'll see others, all of a sudden, while they were being screwed, abused by members of the IRS, abused by members of the Barristers Association, all of a sudden, they don't attack them, they attack brothers and sisters who've been correcting instrumentalities that were sent at them by writing their appellations in small case. They find more reason to attack them than to attack the ones who created the fraudulent instruments in the first place. That's part of the controversy, and that's part of the reason I even brought this up as tonight, even though this is old information to most of you. However, because so many people are becoming conscious now, getting caught up in the trap of fighting themselves instead of the enemy, which is another reason I brought this up. That's the controversy.
Okay. Maurice Hanifi Bey says, how do we hold these people accountable for their actions?
By holding yourself accountable first, because as you hold yourself accountable and you start changing your action, that is what's holding them accountable. That you're even on a venue like this and not limited to this, that's holding them accountable. Because in doing so, you're killing the bonds. Keep in mind, it was never designed for you, me, or anyone else to capture the straw man. It will never be allowed. However, through intelligence and fifth dimensional chess, you can choke it. So wherever those Alonjas are, anywhere in any reserve of any nation state will die on its own, no matter how many volts they lock it in.
So Captain Reynolds, exactly. So everyone keeps comparing this to Nazi Germany, but it's the same thing they've been doing.
It is absolutely the same thing. It's not even different name, same body of people. Claim to be someone who they are not. And I know you saw that in the book of Mark in the Bible. Somebody claimed to be something that they're not. I think it's John 8:44. That's who you're dealing with. That's a fact.
Ernest Lockett wants to know what is your definition of human trafficking, and can you explain the types, please? I guess the words you can say without.
You already know when you ask the question that as soon as you start telling the truth, they're going to start doing what? Blocking, or how do you say, the communications? Because you already know what it is. I'll put it this way. Go on international court records and look up suitcases against some of your major so-called fast food on every other corner with bright letters companies, because they're being sued for selling human flesh as burgers for years. That will answer your question. That's part of it.
Let me add this. We saw that thing a few months ago about the tanker Evergreen that was in the Panama Canal or whatever canal it was stuck and so forth. Somebody went back and found an old version. I think it was 2007, and I saw the episode of. Remember on Homebucks they had this series called Dexter. Some of y'all probably remember. Yeah, and he was this young man. He looked normal, but he was chopping people up. Y'all remember Dexter? And it was a flashback scene in the movie where he's like at a port, and there's this great big container in front
evergreen.
of it with the word evergreen on it, and he sees
a cop or someone,
a
fireman come out with a child
and say, you know, somebody else get in there, and then it disappeared because it was actually it was him. Yes. He was what happened
as young.
What happened to him as a young person? He was trafficked, and he was in a container, and that was 2007. And now we're seeing they're actually
This is why
they put in the movies.
This is why so much effort is made by the priesthood to attack people that start getting into the subject matter, because it was not from their position to be known that even though it was commonly known among people that the hybrid Europeans saw the Aboriginal people as chattel property, also as cattle, they just thought it was an attitude. They didn't know it was actually a political and social reality.
Now it puts new meaning to Miss Clara's thing. Where's the beef?
Like for real.
Like, where'd the beef come from? Because it's probably not that many cows on the earth.
And also for those of you who understand food distribution and the false misrepresentations of food, beef does not mean cattle. Mm-hmm. It also means roadkill. Mm-hmm. And all other kind of scraps of any animal, etc., including humans, ground together and sold under the title beef. It's not opinion. Do some research, you all. And guess what? That's what's been happening. And so many of you know, as we have been experiencing in these late years, many people that I think many of you who are the younger among us, by not having the experience, it's common for you to see many of your family members in the early ages or the early 40s and 50s walking with canes and having all kinds of disease problems, diabetes, strokes, and everything. To be honest with you, when I was younger, that stuff was rare. We didn't see that kind of stuff, you know. And when you have those things to compare with, you know, those who know that these people have been actually poisoned by these people you've been trusting to control your food, to control your medicine, etc. They actually are pathologists, and you thought they were trying to help you. The manifest of all that they've been doing in their genocide programs are manifesting themselves now. This is why, as a matter of fact, they're creating so many diseases, They even, you ever notice that you can look at TV commercial programs, and they'll have 5 or 6 programs from pharmaceuticals, and they're starting to call it the different diseases DTT and EBS and FIS. They're running out of names. The deal of it is all of those are human trafficking experiments, etc. And actually the people have been guinea pigs for them. And they're not there to help you whatsoever. They're there to make you sick, profit off it, and then kill you when you're no longer viable. And also, in order to minimize the karmic response, they tell you to get a license and call it an ID, and then designate your organs in case you bump into a pole. And the people with their dumbass selves have been doing it. It's like the level of intelligence that has been displayed by humanity in these last few decades is amazing. And it certainly has not been on the level of human.
And can you speak on?
I can't understand what you're saying.
Oh, I'm not sure what this is. Oh, dear Grand Sheik Taj Street, can you please speak on Kurdistan, KUR, like the Kurds, Kurdistan, and Alevites, Alevites, maybe Dursum in particular. I'm not sure where he's from. It sounds like he's in one of those countries, because
Are they implying about the wars that are being perpetrated upon the Kurds?
Probably. Kurds.
Well, if that's, you got to be more clear with your questions. But if you're making reference, you're actually dealing with hybrids coming in, claiming the land and killing off the Aboriginal people who may be designated as the Kurds. They're the actual people of the land, distinguished from hybrids who are been intruding and occupying.
Shakari Bay is asking how to spell bishop. I think he means bishopric, right?
Just like you say bishop.
Bishopric, right?
Bishop with IC at the end. Bishopric is the bishop, is the clergy collectively. And know this for surety. None of them are, nor have they ever been, who you thought and think they were or are. However, in short order, you'll be finding out.
Okay, so here's a question. How can Abu Sharif, how can I nationalize in Sierra Leone, Africa?
Sierra Leone, you're on the coast. And of course, Sierra Leone is also part of the Moroccan Empire. And as you already know, most of the family on the east side are more conscious of nationality than they are in the north or the Maghreb. Because as you know, when you're dealing with most of the people at the Maghreb over here, they think that human beings are crayons. So most of them will not give you an intelligent answer nor an intelligent argument in relationship to that. But essentially, you would be more looking at your ancient Moabite and Canaanite origin and Hittite origin. Basically, collectively, you all know it wouldn't be hard for me to talk to you being from Sierra Leone because you already know that people are Moors here. However, the argument is with those who are asleep here, who don't know that they're going to be sacrificed physically.